Qatar has reportedly upped its reconstruction package to the Gaza Strip to $400 million. The announcement was made as Qatar's ruler Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani visits the Gaza Strip. He's the first head of state in Gaza since Hamas took power in 2007. The Emir's government had previously announced funding for several reconstruction projects worth more than $250 million. Now, much of it will fund the education and infrastructure sectors. A new hospital will be built along with a housing project called Hamad City worth an estimated $62 million. Much of the territory's infrastructure was damaged or destroyed during Israel's war on Gaza, which it launched at the end of 2008. Well, to discuss the implications of the visit, we're joined here in the studio by Michael Stevens of the Royal United Services Institute here in Qatar. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming in once again. First off, a visit of great political significance. Just how much of a boost is this for Hamas in Gaza? Do you think this will help end their political isolation, the international isolation?
I think it's a big boost, and the reason for that is because Qatar has strong links to Western countries who are investing in Qatar's future, and also in terms of its diplomatic and security position in the Persian Gulf. So I think in terms of that, Qatar provides a bridge to Hamas in terms of providing it legitimacy and giving it sort of the strength to say, yes, we are talking to world leaders, people recognize who we are, and we're able to deal with people on a diplomatic and international level. So I think in that respect, Qatar sort of leads from the front here.
What about in terms of Gaza's international isolation, which has been the case since Hamas took power in 2007?
Well, that's to do with Israel, and I don't think the Israelis are going to be opening up the Erez crossing or anything like that anytime soon. I mean, those considerations are between sort of Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, and Israel to work out between themselves. But in terms of Egyptian and Gaza relations, yeah, I think this is a big step forward. And I think that if the Gulf states in particular can show that they're supporting some kind of new framework of sort of increased trade and prosperity, then I think it bodes better for Gaza. I wouldn't say it bodes well, but better.
Now, interestingly, and perhaps this is bound to create some controversy, the Emir is not meeting Fatah officials, the PLO in the West Bank. What message do you think that sends when he's just meeting Hamas? And what does it say about Qatar's overall strategic vision in this region?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a de facto recognition that Hamas controls the Gaza Strip, that they are the main power there, the main arbiter of security. And I think that, you know, Fatah play no role in that anymore. And despite all the negotiations that have gone on over the last 5 years between Fatah and Hamas, they've not come to an agreement. So I think that the Emir is working with who he can work with in Gaza in order to sort of sort out the humanitarian concerns there and try and ensure that security is kept in the region. But I think that, you know, obviously there's some ideological affiliations between, you know, what Qatar's relationships with the Muslim Brotherhood are and what Hamas represents, which is, of course, that they are a sort of weak offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood themselves. So those relationships are always going to be strong, and they have been strong for many years.
Well, let's broaden this out a little bit. Hamas has, as you know, has traditionally been close to the Syrian regime and Iran. Qatar, we know, has been at the forefront of criticism of the crisis in Syria and, you know, wants an Arab intervention in Syria and so on. How does this visit play into that?
Well, I think this is a show of Hamas's increasing movement away from their traditional sort of partners. I wouldn't say that Hamas was particularly sectarian in the way that it went about securing funding and support. The Iranians gave Hamas money. Hamas took it. The Iranians, you know, tied that into support with Bashar al-Assad and Hamas having their headquarters in Damascus. They've moved that away now. They feel that it's not possible to support Bashar al-Assad anymore. And I think that the Qataris spotted a diplomatic space into which they could move. And I think they've got the money and they've got the diplomatic sort of nous to be able to exploit that gap.
Very interesting indeed what's going on here. Thank you very much, Michael Stevens. As always, good to get your insights. Michael Stevens is a researcher at the Royal United Services Institute here in Qatar.